3 True Horror Stories from a College Girls' Dormitory. Story 1. The Roommate's Secret. When Samantha first arrived at Penwood College, she was thrilled to escape her overbearing parents and start fresh. The campus was beautiful, the people friendly, and she couldn't wait to meet her roommate, Emily. Emily was already in the room when Samantha arrived, a petite girl with short, dark hair and thick glasses. She was shy but polite, keeping to herself most of the time. The first few weeks went smoothly. Emily was quiet, never staying up late or making noise. But Samantha began to notice strange habits. Emily always locked the bathroom door, then when she was just brushing her teeth. Sometimes Samantha would wake up in the middle of the night and find Emily sitting up in her bed, staring into the dark. One Friday night, Samantha's friends invited her to a party. She asked Emily if she wanted to come, but Emily declined, saying she preferred to stay in the dorm. Samantha shrugged and went on without her. The party was fun, and Samantha returned around 2 a.m., a little tipsy. When she opened the door, she froze. Emily wasn't in her bed. Instead, the room was dark, and the bathroom door was ajar. The sound of faint weeping filled the air. Samantha's heart raced. She walked slowly toward the bathroom, pushing the door open just enough to peek inside. There, on the floor, sat Emily, huddled in a corner, her hands clutching her knees, her hair hanging in wet strands over her face. "Emily," Samantha whispered, but Emily didn't respond. The weeping continued, soft and desperate. Samantha reached out to touch her shoulder, but as soon as she did, Emily let out a chilling scream that echoed through the tiny room. Startled, Samantha stumbled back, knocking over a shelf. Emily looked up at her, eyes wide, not with fear, but with rage. "Don't touch me," she hissed, her voice like broken glass. The next morning, Emily acted as if nothing had happened. Samantha didn't bring it up, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. Over the next few weeks, Emily's behavior grew more bizarre. She stayed out late, returning to the dorm around 3 or 4 a.m. When she did, Samantha could hear her moving around the room, muttering to herself. Sometimes Samantha would wake up and see Emily standing at the foot of her bed, just staring, not saying a word. One night, when Samantha confronted her, Emily just smiled and said, "You, LLC." One evening, Samantha decided to go through Emily's things while she was out. She knew it was wrong, but her curiosity had become unbearable. She started with the desk drawers, finding nothing out of the ordinary, until she reached the bottom drawer. Inside was a small, worn notebook. Flipping through the pages, Samantha's blood ran cold. The notebook was filled with strange drawings, figures with no faces, dark shapes hovering above beds, and scribbled phrases like she's watching and I'll never escape. Suddenly, the door creaked open, and Emily stood there, her eyes locked on Samantha. "You shouldn't have done that," she whispered, stepping into the room. Samantha's heart pounded as Emily walked closer, her movements slow and deliberate. "Who are you?" Samantha stammered. Emily smiled, but it wasn't friendly. "We've been waiting," she said softly, waiting for her to come back. Samantha backed toward the door, her breath shallow. "Who?" "Her," Emily whispered. "The girl who lived here before you. She never left." The light flickered, and the room grew unbearably cold. Samantha tried to run, but Emily was already at the door, blocking her path. "She's not gone, you know. She's still here, in this room, in this very bed." With that, Emily's eyes rolled back, and she collapsed. Samantha screamed, calling for help. Campus security arrived, and Emily was taken away, but not before she whispered one last thing to Samantha. "She's yours now." That night, Samantha lay in bed, terrified. The room was silent, but she couldn't sleep. Hours passed, and just as she was beginning to drift off, she heard it, a soft whisper, right next to her ear. "I am still here." Story 2. The Whispering Walls. Lily transferred to Crestwood University during her sophomore year. The dorm she moved into, Hawthorne Hall, was known for its history, being one of the oldest buildings on campus. Lily loved the idea of living in a place with so much character, despite hearing rumors about it being haunted. To her, it was just silly college folklore. Her roommate, Kara, was laid back and easy to get along with. The two girls quickly became friends, but Lily noticed something odd about their room. At night, she would hear faint whispers coming from the walls, as if someone were murmuring just beyond them. Kara didn't. T seemed to notice, and when Lily brought it up, she brushed it off. Old buildings make weird sounds, Kara said, laughing. You just freaking yourself out. But the whispers persisted. Sometimes they were faint, like a breeze moving through cracks in the wall, but other times they were louder, more distinct. The words were unintelligible, but the tone was unmistakable, desperate, pleading, angry. One night, after Kara had gone home for the weekend, Lily was alone in the dorm. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, when the whispers started again. This time, they were louder than ever, like voices trapped just behind the walls. She pressed her ear to the cold plaster, trying to make sense of the noise, but all she could hear was a cacophony of whispers, overlapping one another. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Lily jumped, her heart racing. She wasn't expecting anyone. Hesitantly, she opened the door to find no one there. The hallway was empty. As she closed the door, the whispering grew louder, more insistent. It seemed to be coming from everywhere, the walls, the floor, even the ceiling. Panicked, Lily grabbed her phone and called Kara, but the call wouldn't go through. Her phone had no signal, even though it worked fine earlier. A cold breeze swept through the room, and the lights flickered. Lily's skin prickled with fear as the temperature dropped rapidly. She grabbed her jacket and made her way to the door, but when she tried to turn the knob, it wouldn't budge. The door was stuck, as if something was holding it closed. From the other side, the whispers grew louder, and now, they sounded like voices, many voices, each one more urgent than the last. Help us. Lily backed away from the door, her breath coming in short gasps. She turned to face the room, her eyes scanning every corner. The walls seemed to ripple, as if something was moving just beneath the surface. Who's there? Lily shouted, her voice trembling. In response, the whispers intensified. Lily could hear distinct words now, clearer than before. Trapped inside. Help. Suddenly, the lights went out, plunging the room into darkness. Lily fumbled for her phone, using its dim screen as a flashlight. She moved cautiously toward the window, hoping to escape, but when she pulled back the curtain, she found nothing but a solid brick wall. The window, which had overlooked the courtyard earlier, was now completely blocked. Lily's heart pounded as she backed away, her mind racing for an explanation. How could a wall have appeared behind the window? Just then, the closet door creaked open on its own. Lily froze, her phone's light shining on the dark opening. Something was inside, hidden in the shadows. She took a step closer, her hand shaking as she reached for the door. Inside, there was nothing but darkness, until she saw it. A hand, pale and skeletal, reaching out from the back of the closet. Lily screamed and stumbled backward, falling to the floor. The whispers surrounded her now, louder and more aggressive. Join us. She scrambled to her feet and ran for the door, pulling with all her strength. It finally gave way, and she burst into the hallway, her heart pounding in her chest. She didn't stop running until she was outside, gasping for air under the cold night sky. Lily never returned to Hawthorne Hall. She moved off campus, and though she tried to forget what had happened, the whispers never left her. Sometimes, late at night, she could still hear them, faint and far away, as if calling to her from behind the walls. Story 3, The Ghost of Harper House. Harper House was an old dormitory on campus, long abandoned after a tragic incident in the 1960s. The official story was that a student had died there, but no one knew the details. Rumors swirled for decades. Some said it was a suicide, others whispered of murder. Charlotte, a June majoring in history, was fascinated by the tale of Harper House. She heard that the building was haunted, and though the university had sealed it off, that didn't stop curious students from sneaking in. When her friends dared her to spend the night there, Charlotte couldn't resist. On a chilly October night, armed with flashlights and a couple of sleeping bags, Charlotte and two of her friends, Mark and Lisa, made their way to Harper House. The building loomed in the darkness, its windows boarded up and its exterior weathered by time. The front door was locked, but Mark found an open window, and one by one, they climbed inside. The interior was just as eerie as they expected. Dust coated every surface, and the air smelled stale, like old wood and mildew. Their flashlights cast long shadows down the narrow hallways, and the sound of their footsteps echoed unnervingly. They set up camp in what used to be the common room, laying out their sleeping bags on the floor. Lisa, always the superstitious one, was already on edge. "I don't like this place," she whispered, glancing around nervously. "It feels wrong." "That's the point," Charlotte said with a grin. "It's supposed to be haunted." Mark chuckled. "You not scared, are you?" Lisa didn't answer, but the uneasy look on her face said enough. As the night wore on, the three of them swapped ghost stories, laughing nervously and trying to outdo each other. But as midnight approached, the mood shifted. The air seemed to grow heavier, the silence more oppressive. Even Charlotte, who had been the most enthusiastic about the adventure, felt a strange sense of unease creeping in. Around 1 a.m., they heard it, a soft thudding noise, like footsteps coming from upstairs. Mark and Charlotte exchanged glances, both trying to play it cool. "Boo." Lisa's face went pale. We're not alone," she whispered. "It's probably just the building settling," Mark said, though his voice lacked conviction. The footsteps continued, slow and deliberate, moving closer. Charlotte's heart raced as she shone her flashlight toward the staircase, but there was nothing there. Just the dark, yawning stairwell. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed through the house, as if something heavy had fallen upstairs. Lisa jumped to her feet, clutching her flashlight tightly. "We need to leave," she said, her voice trembling. "Relax," Charlotte said, though she felt far from relaxed. "It's probably just the wind." But then, from the corner of her eye, she saw it, movement at the top of the stairs. A figure, barely visible in the shadows, stood there, watching them. Charlotte froze, her flashlight beam shaking as she aimed it toward the figure. "Who's there?" she called out, her voice barely above a whisper. The figure didn't move, didn't make a sound. It just stood there, a dark silhouette at the top of the stairs. Charlotte's mind raced. Was it another student, playing a prank, or was it something else, something not quite human? Without warning, the figure vanished, dissolving into the shadows as if it had never been there. Charlotte's breath caught in her throat, and she turned to her friends, her heart pounding. "Aang. Did you see that?" Mark nodded, his face pale. "We need to get out of here." But before they could move, the temperature in the room plummeted. Their breath fogged in the air, and an overwhelming sense of dread filled the space, pressing down on them like a weight. The footsteps started again, this time coming down the stairs, slow and deliberate. Lisa screamed, and they all bolted for the window, scrambling to climb out as fast as they could. Charlotte was the last one out, her hands shaking as she pulled herself through the narrow opening. Just as he was about to drop to the ground, she felt something cold brush against her ankle, like icy fingers trying to pull her back inside. She let out a terrified scream, and fell to the ground outside, her heart racing. Mark and Lisa helped her up, and the three of them ran without looking back, not stopping until they were safely back on campus. For weeks after the incident, Charlotte couldn't shake the feeling that something had followed her from Harper House. She heard whispers at night, felt cold spots in her dorm room, and sometimes, she thought she saw a figure standing at the foot of her bed, just watching. She never went back to Harper House, but it never left her. Even years later, she could still hear those footsteps in her nightmares, slow and deliberate, coming closer and closer.